It was getting kind of late, and I'm like, I think I'm just going to walk back. I don't remember it being that far back to the hotel. And as you mentioned, there's elk just hanging out in town. And it's the rut, and the bulls can be a little aggressive. So you got to kind of be careful,
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. Quick announcement before we get into it. I don't know if you remember the series of episodes I did this past December called Breaking the Ice, which featured a bunch of different ladies who are big into ice fishing that I interviewed, and it was kind of a twofold purpose. I was writing an article for Trailer Life magazine called Breaking the Ice about women in ice fishing, and so I had the idea to go ahead and use these interviews that I did for the article as podcast episodes. So I talked to World Championship ice angler Debbie Compton. That was back on episode 161. Episode 162 featured Hannah Stonehouse Hudson, who's so crazy she moved to Fargo, North Dakota, just so she could extend her ice fishing season. I also talked about the Ladies Midwest Meetup, which I'm sure they'll be doing another event this winter on the ice. That was episode 163. And also, and there was actually a couple episodes from the Ladies Midwest Meetup ladies. The second one was episode 164. And then, of course, I had to talk to Women Anglers of Minnesota, two ladies that are really amazing independent ice anglers. So they were featured on episode 165. If you missed any of those, definitely go back and check those out because they're definitely worth listening to. But anyway, so the article came out in a special edition of Trailer Life magazine. Anyway, now that article is available online. They've switched over to RV magazine, so rv.com. You can find the article there, Breaking the Ice. But anyway, it just found out that this article won second place at the 2021 Tennessee Outdoor Writers Association Excellence in Craft Awards. So pretty cool for my first ever magazine article, which it ended up being a feature, and to take home second place in the magazine division is pretty special. So excited about that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it to the Tennessee Outdoor Writers Association conference this year because I just have way too much travel going on. Just got back from Florida, and then I'm going to be getting ready to go back to Florida again. So it's just a little bit too much squeezed in all at once. Unfortunately, it's on Dale Hollow Lake, which is a lake I still have not been to yet, so that's kind of disappointing. It would have been a perfect opportunity for me to make it out to Dale Hollow, do some fishing, and take place in this conference. But anyways, so this week, I had a conversation last week on the Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Live with Barbara Harris, where I kind of really recapped the LBAA championship, my experience on Logan Martin, kind of got into some details on why I made certain decisions, what baits I used, and just kind of a play-by-play of each day and how it went, how my co-anglers did. And then we also talked a little bit about my trip to the Outdoor Media Summit in Estes Park, Colorado. So I wanted to share that conversation with you guys this week. It's available, the video version's available on the YouTube channel, but this is just the audio version. I did edit it down just a little bit. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this recap. It's kind of a good way to kind of wind down the whole LBAA season and then cap it off with that exciting trip to Estes Park, Colorado to accept the Best Outdoor Podcast Awards that you all are very, very much to thank for both 2019 and 2020. So really exciting stuff going on. And then next week, I've got another awesome episode for you with Lady Captain down in Florida. I was down there recently. We met in person, and so those are always a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy meeting her next week. So enjoy this week, and look forward to seeing you back here next week.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another night of Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Takeover. I hope that everyone is doing well. And, it's actually been quite a while since we've had a show. It's been probably, what, Angie, like
a month or more?
Yeah, it's been like
at least a month.
Yeah, it has been, because we were off for the holiday and took a little bit of extra time off. You've been all over the country since then, so it has been quite a while. But it was actually a nice break, I think, for both of us. We both have a lot going on, that we've been working on. And so, but it's nice to kind of get back into the swing of things and get back into the groove, even though the season's kind of, winding down and everything. Tonight's all about you. So, it was a great way to kind of, end out with the Lady Bass Anglers Association, you making it into the championship. And it just seemed like the right thing to do with as many accomplishments as you've had this year, to just make out, the rounding of the year kind of about you. So in the write-up, we kind of went over everything that's kind of started at the beginning,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned traveling. So tonight is actually no different. And I kind of thought, well, we can't postpone it again. Last week was the Facebook thing. It was down for like 6 hours on Monday, and we didn't know how up it was going to be for the timing of our show. So we decided to just postpone it another week. And then I'm actually had a last minute trip come up to Perdido Key in Florida. So I'm at an Airbnb down in Perdido Key this week. So, but I was like, no, we still got to do the show.
Right.
So
can't put it off again. They'll think that we just totally dropped off the face of the planet.
Exactly. So yeah, we took a Freedom Boat Club boat out this afternoon from Perdido Key. And I always like to explore new waterways. And I also have a fondness for inshore and saltwater fishing.
Right.
And so I didn't do any fishing today. Today was just kind of exploring the area with the boat. We went from Perdido Key up into Alabama and kind of back around to the Floribama. There's like a famous restaurant there called
Floribama Shore.
Yeah.
Were they filming?
No, I didn't see that.
Tag on it.
We grabbed some good food there while we were there, and then we kind of went and explored the other direction for a little while we still had the boat. So it was a really good afternoon of boating, and it's always, it's fun because it's different than boating on a lake. You've got the intercoastal waterway,
right,
and lots of sandbars and things like that. So put my captain skills to good use, but all went well. So we're going to go out again Thursday, maybe do some fishing. I did see some areas that I think might be good. We saw a lot of bait. We saw some dolphin, some babies. So that was cool.
So what will you go fishing for if you go out?
Whatever. That's what I love about saltwater fishing is there's so many great species. I mean, you could be hoping for a redfish or whatever, but you might get, Jack Crevalle or the Spanish mackerel or just, so I usually use shrimp and like a little jig head, either live shrimp or frozen shrimp. I actually had fish from the beach yesterday, not very much because yesterday was Sunday and it was very crowded. And so it was hard to find like good areas where I could fish without, too many people in the way. There was a lot of stingray, so that's usually a good sign that I think, in my experience, that fishing's going to be somewhat decent. So in the little bit of time, I don't know. It's just, stingray is a good bait. But also you catch stingray, which they're kind of fun to catch because their wings are so wide. Like it's almost a good fight coming in because it's just so much like mass that you're reeling in that it feels like a really big fish, and then it might just be,
Tiny.
a small stingray or whatever. But
I wouldn't want to touch one. I mean, I'm not familiar with them, but I'd be afraid to touch them.
Yeah, the first time I ever caught one, I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. And thankfully this lady was walking the beach, and when I drug it up on shore, it had flipped upside down. It was laying upside down, and I didn't know what to do. And she just grabbed the edge of its wings on each side and flipped it back over. Luckily the hook had come out by itself, so I didn't have to deal with that. And then she just grabbed it and put it back in the water like that. So then that night I was like, I need to get on YouTube and figure out, in case this happens again, I know what to do. And so basically what I saw was I think it's their ear holes on their head. You can, if they're not real big, where, I have small hands, but the ones I was catching, I could stick my fingers in its ear holes and pick it up that way. And then just keep it far enough away from your body to where you're not going to have to worry about their tails swinging around and hitting you with those stingers. Sometimes they have more than one stinger on their tail, so that's something else you got to be mindful of. But the bigger ones, if you can't do that with your hand, you gotta pick them up by their wings, I guess. So can be scary.
I was just gonna say I'm not used to anything on the salt water, so it's interesting.
Yeah, there's so much variety of fish. It's hard when you're not someone who fishes saltwater all the time to know exactly what you need to do with every kind of species. Like I had an experience this past winter where I caught a puffer fish, and I didn't know what it was at the time. It wasn't puffed up, so I didn't, if it had puffed itself up, I would have been like, oh my gosh, this is one of those puffer fish. But
I know they're poisonous, but that's all I know.
And I had a bird that was stalking me, like this big heron or something that was stalking me, and like kept creeping closer because anytime I caught a fish, it wanted to eat it when I went to release it. And so I was kind of freaked out by the bird. Plus I had this fish that I didn't know what it was. And their skin is so thick that it's really challenging to get the hook out. So I'm like, struggling. I use circle hooks when I do saltwater fishing because they're easier. You don't get, gut hooked or anything like that. And so anyways, I was trying to get that hook out and struggling. And I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't know what kind of fish it was, like I said. And I was looking at its mouth and it looked soft, like a carp. And I was like, well, I could probably stick my thumb in here and get a good grip on it, and then I'll be able to get that hook out. And just as I was about to do that, it chomped down its teeth. And they're like people teeth, like that style, like just really thick. Like it was creepy looking, actually. I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I didn't just stick my thumb down in there, because I probably would have lost it.
Right. Wow.
So anyway, I finally got the hook out, and sure enough, I released it, but that darn bird got it. So Dana was pretty devastated that happened, but
yeah, I wouldn't want to see it either. I mean, circle of life and all that, blah, blah, blah. But, I just don't want to see it.
And I don't know enough about it, but I wonder, with them being so poisonous, how does it not affect the bird? I mean,
it might have. That bird might have, sealed his own fate. I don't know.
I don't know. Again, maybe circle of life, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm down in Florida right now. I'll be back again the first week of November for the Freedom Boat Club conferences in Cape Coral. Probably won't get to do much fishing during that week, and then I'll be back down in the Bradenton, Tampa, on south to like Cape Coral back probably after Thanksgiving. So looking forward to that. Fall is quickly becoming fall and winter, which used to be my least favorite time of year, is quickly becoming my favorite time of year. So
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you really don't have, I guess you would say, like an off season. You have like a different season.
Right.
Changing
it up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Summer now is so busy for me too with my job, plus trying to do the tournaments and stuff. So, which we usually get, a couple months off over the summertime, which is nice. But as far as tournaments go, but yeah, so it's been a while now. I was thinking about kind of mentally preparing for our conversation tonight. And I was thinking, man, it's been a while since I fished Logan Martin. Now I got to go back and think about, what that was like to talk about it tonight. But it was my best tournament of the year. And so I felt good about that. It was only like 3.5 hours from Nashville. That was really, really nice because all the other tournaments were way too far away to where I didn't have an opportunity to kind of go scope out the lake before practice started. So I went down, I think it was the week before Labor Day weekend, because right after that was off limits. And so it was either the week before that or the 2 weeks before that. I can't remember now, but I did get to take a day to go down there and fish it. And so we got to see the RV park where we were going to be staying with the truck camper, and that whole kind of area there where we were staying, it was called Cropwell Creek. That whole area there. Kind of a drive from the new Lincoln Landing, which is where our blast off was taking place. That Lincoln Landing is still under construction. So luckily they were doing tournaments already out of there, but it's not completely finished. So it's a brand new area, but that's where our blast off was. And where I was staying in Cropwell Creek at Lakeside Landing RV Park, I had a dock right there by my truck camper. So I was able to launch the boat for official practice, keep it in the water. It's so nice.
It is so nice.
It's the best setup I've had, and so I got to do a lot of practice. I really got to maximize my practice time. And so that being said, I made my strategy to really just learn every little nuance of Cropwell Creek. It's a very big creek, and there's a lot of fish there. And so I knew if I just focus my attention on that area of the lake, my hope was I'd be able to at least get my limit. And then after that, start heading north toward Lincoln Landing and try to get some bigger fish. Because I think the bigger fish tend to be more that direction, but you weren't going to get the numbers like you could get there in Cropwell Creek. So that was kind of my whole game plan. And so it was really nice. So for practice, literally, got up, tried to get up and out close to first light, but some mornings it was a little bit later than I wanted to. But anyway, I got out, targeted.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
There were a couple really good spots that I felt like would produce well for the morning bite. One is there's this boat ramp right close to the RV park called Town and Country, and so many tournaments go out of there. So a lot of fish are released there. And so my goal was to kind of comb that area with a buzzbait first thing in the morning or a whopper plopper, and maybe get some topwater action. And then not far from there was this other good area. They call it the pipe. There's this whole like tunnel that kind of goes up. My boat couldn't fit through it, but you could potentially go through this little tunnel to this other area. It's pretty shallow back in there anyways, but something about that pipe, there's a lot of fish that just kind of hang out in there. So that was kind of my second target. There's also a place across from the campground that had a lot of water willow grass. And so that can produce well in the morning too. And so I would try that with the buzzbait or whopper plopper. Really never really got a good topwater bite though the whole time. So I'll kind of get more into that. But so I kind of had a strategy going into it, which was nice because I've not had that at any of the other lakes we've fished this year. And so I think that alone gave me more confidence going into the tournament. And then it was cool in practice. I'd usually fish till about noon, boat into the dock, grab lunch at the camper, eat a sandwich, take a little break till about 1. So I took like an hour break, and then I'd go back out and, fish for however long.
Yeah,
so
because
that was
you're not able to do that if, you've got to pull the boat, go, out somewhere. It's like, it's just not even worth it to do that.
Yeah, so that was such a nice setup, and if ever I get a chance to do that again on any other of the other lakes that we fish, I'm definitely going to do that. It was also a great view. It was an amazing view from our campsite. And, I probably got a little bit of extra information just being there, kind of watching boats go by and areas that they were fishing and things like that. But anyway, so first day of practice was Saturday. That was my best day of practice I've ever had.
I think like hearing Brooke talk about it and Pam talk about it, it sounded like it was theirs too. So that might have been for everybody.
And it was crazy because the lake was busy. The weather was beautiful that day. And so there were so many pleasure boats out, lots of wake surf boats. And the big game changer for me that I was so glad I did this, but I found a seat for the front of my boat that I haven't had a seat up there this whole time, because where the pedestal is mounted is so close to the front of the bow of the boat. It makes it really hard to balance or work your trolling motor, your foot pedal. And so I took it out, and since Ray Hubbard, I never used the seat up there.
Okay.
But I found a pedestal that kind of curves back a little bit, so it kind of gives me a little bit extra room. And then I stumbled across this seat it's like a saddle. And I can't remember the name of the company now. It's like Millennium or something like that. But they make a lot of hunting, like deer stands and things like that. And I'm like, ooh, this would be nice because I could turn it long ways like a saddle and kind of, get a little extra balance that way. Plus I can sit back even further, giving me a little bit more room up there to work the foot pedal and stuff. That was by far probably the biggest game changer for me in this entire tournament.
That is awesome. And I bet you there is not a lot of people fishing that know that even exists. You should do a review on that or a little video, because that is awesome.
Yeah, and that day, Saturday, with all them wake boats, I rode it like a saddle all day. That gave me the best balance.
I
But
can
then
imagine.
on the calmer days, I'd sit on it the other direction, so it was just
Yeah.
kind of more like my butt just sitting on it. But what was funny is after I bought it, I started reading the reviews on Amazon, and like the third or fourth review down was like, "Thank you, Gerald Swindle, for recommending this seat." And I was like, "What?" So I Googled it, and he's a huge promoter of that. And
Really?
you know how we're buddies, and he's one of my favorites. So I was like, "Well, that's just meant to be."
Yeah,
So
I need to send you one of the cowboy coffee chew hats so that whenever you're on there,
yeah,
like with the saddle. Yeah, because I did that on your boat the one time when we were coming in and the waves were really big. I always do that when it's real bad,
yeah.
shaking my hat because of him. But
I ought
that
to get another one of those seats and put it in the back for my co-angler. So that might be something to look into. But
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna look that up. I have a full seat up front, and I won't stray for that. But man, that I would like one of those in the back of my boat.
mm-hmm.
Because I go back and forth and I'm always taking it, taking out the front, my dad is taking the front out, putting it in the back. And that would be a good little rest seat.
And it was comfortable too. And so I never had any fatigue in my back or my feet the entire time. And it being a 3-day tournament, I was a little concerned about that because I've not fished a 3-day tournament before. And usually by the end of day 2, I'm like hurting,
Right.
And so
And
with
the practice
this,
was longer.
right. Yeah. Practice was longer. And so I never had any issues. So, but so Saturday practice was really cool. Like pretty much every spot I went to, I caught fish. I was hoping that maybe there'd be more schooling going on than what I saw. And I guess it was just still a little early yet with the weather and whatnot. It was still, pretty warm. So that wasn't what I was hoping for, but I was prepared. I had stuff ready to go in case I did come up on some schooling bass. But so I think it was Saturday. I'm trying to remember now because so this was also the first time I ever practiced fish by myself. All the other tournaments, every day of practice, I've had a co-angler with me. And so I've been wanting to do this all year because I just wondered, this is my first year as a boater, and I just wondered if I would make different decisions if I was by myself because I'm always thinking about my co-angler. And I'm like, are they bored? Should we move to a different spot? We're not catching anything. Like, if it were me, I'd probably stay here a little longer, but, so it was cool getting to practice fish by myself and then having that success on that first day. I mean,
Right.
I think I easily caught a limit on the first day of practice, and I had not caught a limit yet in all the other previous tournaments. And so that was really reassuring, I guess. But I think it was Saturday that I stumbled upon this spot that when I looked on my graph up front with my live scope, there were literally fish everywhere and tons of bait. And I couldn't figure out why they were there. I just kind of stumbled upon it for no reason. And I was like, this looks like something special. So literally first 2 casts, I caught fish both times, keepers. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this spot alone.
Yep.
And see what happens. I mean, granted, this was Saturday. The tournament didn't start until Thursday.
Yeah.
So a lot could change between then. And so I think it was Sunday I practiced fish with Charlotte. My day might be off by 1. I'm trying to remember if that was Sunday or Monday. And maybe I stumbled across that spot on Sunday. But anyway, the day I practiced fish with Charlotte, and we knew we were fishing together on Thursday. And so with me having an unconventional boat, she wanted to practice fish with me one day just so she could kind of get used to the boat.
Okay. Because she was day one, right?
Yeah, day one she was my partner day one. And so I told her I found the spot. We're not going to touch it today. Just know and be ready for Thursday that if it's still active, I was catching them on a Ned rig, and it was one after the other. So, and it was a white Ned rig. Like everything I was using was just trying to imitate the shad that they were feeding on. Mm-hmm. So that was my next practice day. I had a few blow-ups on top water that morning, which was the only time I ended up having top water blow-ups. So that kind of threw me off for the tournament because I was like, well, they were biting, and so I tried that like the morning of the first couple days, and that was just kind of a waste. But anyway, so that was that day, and then practice fished Tuesday. Wednesday I went out. Wednesday I changed it up a little bit because that was the day of our meeting, and I wanted to. Oh, the other thing I did with Charlotte is we did run to Lincoln Landing just to kind of see what that run was like. And that's when I decided for the tournament, we're going to have to pull the boat and launch from the blast off site because it was 25 minutes of a run. Yeah.
You had to do it in the dark.
Right. And I didn't want to deal with that. And if there was fog or whatever, you know, it's a river, there could be debris and stuff like that. So that was a good decision. It was much better launching from Lincoln Landing than making that run in the dark. So, and save boat fuel.
Well, that's true.
So we did that. And then, so I had a few spots that I kind of marked on that side of the lake. So if I needed some last minute holes to hit, making my run back for weigh-in, I had some options to hit up that way. So that's what I focused on Wednesday. We actually launched from Lincoln Landing, and I kind of hit some of those areas that I had graphed out. So my trolling motor kind of screwed up that day. So unfortunately, I didn't get to fish a whole lot. It was mostly just kind of scouting out these different areas. That ended up being late for the meeting, which was awful. I was so nervous. I was like, oh no, because it was originally supposed to be 5:00. And I guess there was an email that went out and said they changed it to 3:00. And somehow I just didn't catch that. So
it happens.
So they text me. They're like, where are you? Alyssa Johnson, she was watching earlier. I don't know if she still is. But she texts me. She's like, are you okay? Are you coming to the meeting? I'm like, yeah, just about to get ready. And then like I get a text from Cheryl, and she's like, where are you? And I'm like, I thought it was at 5:00, and it's like close to 4 at this point. And so she's like, no, it started at 3. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just literally like threw some clothes on, like, cause this is the classic, you know, you kind of dress up a little bit.
Right.
And mapped it out on the GPS. I'm like, I'm going to be there at 4:18. So,
not 4:19, 4:18.
Yeah. So we got there as soon as we could, but everything was fine. So yeah. So then day one of the tournament with Charlotte. Oh, I forgot to mention, I couldn't help myself. I did go back and check that spot one more time during practice just to see if the fish were still there. And
it does make sense because a lot of time had gone by, and if there was you couldn't find a reason why they were there. I mean, it's a good possibility they wouldn't be there.
Right. Exactly.
So I get that.
Yeah. So first cast, caught one. I'm like, okay, good. So
like, yes!
Yeah. But you know, you're still nervous because then it was still another 2 days before the tournament started, and anything can happen. Right. And from the campground, every time a boat went that direction, because I could see, I'm like, please don't find that spot. Please don't find that spot. So anyway, first day of the tournament, Charlotte and I, we did hit those top water spots and didn't have any luck. And so after that, we went to that spot because my goal was let's get our limits early as possible, and then we'll start making our way and try to find some bigger fish. Because I knew the majority of the fish in that area, a lot of them were keepers, some of them were short, but we probably weren't going to get any monsters. Could possibly, but
what was the limit or the limits for Logan Martin? Some of them look like, I mean, there were fish weighed in under a pound, so I'm assuming the 10-inch spotted bass limit was. It had to have been a 10-inch spot.
It was the same, I believe, for both largemouth
for largemouth
and spots.
Too?
Yes, I believe so.
Under a 12-inch largemouth?
I think it was.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
If somebody's watching and remembers, let me know.
I would, if I had to guess, I would say probably a 12-inch largemouth and a 10-inch spot.
It was the same for both because I remember not having to be worried about telling the difference between largemouth, which it seemed really easy to tell the difference on Logan Martin.
It was, well, it might have been 12, but some of there was like the small bass was like 11 or 12 ounces or something it was little.
I feel like it was 12 for each, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe.
But anyway, so first we get there and it didn't look as busy as it had before. And I was kind of like, oh no, it's not going to be good. And we fish it for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. And then we were catching them one after another and it was so much fun.
Nice.
And yeah, both of us, and some of them were short, but some of them were keepers. I think I put 3 keepers in and Charlotte put 2. And I was like, all right, let's give this spot a break for a little bit. I've got some other areas to try in this, Cropwell Creek. And then if we don't get our limits, we'll come back here and hopefully finish up our limits and then we can go target some bigger fish. So we tried some other areas and luckily both of us got our limits.
Nice.
And so that's when we headed north. We hit this area that one of my neighbors on the dock grew up in, this place called Poorhouse Branch. And
nice.
I had hit that one on that day. I went up that direction just to kind of check it out. And so we went all back in there, trolled the whole way back and didn't catch anything. And so I was like, all right, check the live well. My the recirc pump wasn't working and it was running, but it wasn't actually pumping out any water. And Charlotte didn't know enough to listen for the water or to say anything that it wasn't actually recirculating water. And so my big largemouth died. And so, yeah. And so,
well, and it might have been too noisy with all the traffic to even hear whether or not it was running at any time.
I think the biggest issue, because the spots did amazing and the largemouth were a lot more sensitive, and I had 2 largemouth that day. They both ended up dying. And I think I filled the tank up in the morning and I put some ice in there, and I think maybe the water was too cold for the largemouth.
Really?
And so, and that and also the recirc pump not working right.
Yeah.
And so I called Larry, the tournament director, and it was only 12:30, maybe approaching 1:00. And I was like, we both have our limits. I've got 2 dead fish. I think I need to weigh early because I don't want to risk having any more penalties, especially when I found out it was a half a pound per dead fish. And now I already had a pound penalty.
Right.
So I made the decision.
That's tough.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, if that hadn't happened, I finished in 12th. I would have finished in 10th place. So that pound hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't have put me in the money or anything like that, but still, to say I had a top 10 finish in my first year would have been cool. But
yeah.
So
I
we
mean,
made the
and for your best tournament, to have been for during the championship and the classic, I mean, not just finish wise, but just your overall confidence. I mean, that's awesome.
it was my first limit that day one of the whole year. Sucked that I didn't get to weigh in with everybody else.
Yeah.
With a limit, but it is what it is. And
well, just so everybody knows.
yeah.
I think that everybody I think everybody found out whenever they came in. I think that they announced that you had weighed in early, or Charlotte told everybody or something.
Yeah.
Because well, no, you told me. I guess that's how I found out. But, and another thing, I mean, that you have to be super duper proud of is, sometimes when pros get up on stage, they're like, well, my co-angler did great. You were one of the 3 that had the co-angler champion.
Yeah, absolutely. So
without you, who knows what would have happened? She had one of her best days with you.
Yeah. So
her big fish.
I was really happy for my co's. Charlotte, getting her limit the first day. I was happy for that. Mm-hmm. And then the second day I had Brooke Johnson with me, and we went. She killed it. She
did. With everybody.
She outfished me, and I can say some stuff because she said it from stage after she ended up winning first place on the co-angler side. But that day, we went to that spot again, and I think I'm trying to remember if I just started there that day since the top water didn't produce, or if we did try a little top water. I think we did try a little top water, and then we went there. I finally learned my lesson the third day to just go straight there, because why waste your time when you're not having any luck with the top water thing. But anyway, day 2, when we got to that spot, it was definitely even less active than the day before. So it was slowly dying off. Mm-hmm. We did pull a couple fish off that spot that day. But it was very few and far between.
Yeah.
So, but Brooke, man, she crushed it on a wacky rig, which is her thing, and she's so good at it, and I'm not. So when she was catching fish behind me on this wacky rig, and I just haven't fished it enough. I did try it, but she's got that touch.
she was very, when you were actually in Colorado hanging out with, hand feeding elk and stuff. But when I was holding down the fort interviewing Brooke and Pam Martin Wells back here, Brooke was very candid, and she talked about, how both days, she had to have that green and the watermelon, or the red flake in it. But she said it was, one day they wanted it, wacky rigged, and I forget, the other day was, I don't remember the other one. It was a Ned rig.
Yeah, she did fish the Ned rig. That's not her normal thing, but in that spot where I was catching all those fish off a Ned rig, she was, using that. She missed a lot, trying to set the hook. And so that's something that I'm sure she'll work on more down the road.
I think she had said that she was doing a wacky rig and maybe a weighted wacky rig, or like a weightless, but she said that, it was basically same bait, different presentation. But even Pam Martin Wells, I mean, she was just like, this girl is dangerous with a daggone, Cinco, like, and so I'm really glad that, you were part of that journey for, because, that's something for you to be proud about too. You know, she had to do all the work for her, but you know,
I put her where the fish were.
right.
to
And
catch,
you know,
so.
because I know that most of the pros, you know, most of them that, you know, that we've had on here have said like, you know, I worry about the co-angler and stuff like that. And ultimately it's our responsibility. No matter how you shake it, like day in and day out, it's our responsibility to catch the fish. But we know how much you guys stress about it, you know, so you did good there.
Yeah.
And congratulations, Brooke and
Yeah.
Pam again, if you guys are listening or watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was a great day, and you know, I'll be candid here. I literally caught all my fish through the entire tournament on basically 3 baits, 3 presentations. So, one was probably my most, other than the Ned rig. I did a little white Ned rig and you know, small Ned head jig. But the second one that I probably caught the most fish on throughout practice and the tournament was a robo worm, and it was the Aaron's Morning Dawn color, which is kind of like a white on one side, a purple on the other, with a shaky head. And
Okay.
yeah, that was like my second most caught bait. And then finally, the other one was a crankbait. I was fishing the Berkeley Fritzside 5 in any kind of shad color pattern. So it's a newer bait. I think I got it at the Classic 2 years ago. It had just come out, and I think it's supposed to imitate a balsa wood crankbait.
Oh, okay. 2 years of fishing bait that's 2 years old. That's like,
right? Yeah.
You know,
to me, it's still new, but
it is. I'm just joking. It just seems like there's constantly, you know, just new stuff and new stuff, you know, which is good and also very overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. So going into day 3, I was sitting in 7th place. I was pretty happy about that. I mean, you think about the field and these ladies that have been fishing this tournament, you know, trail for a lot of them since it started, which has been over 10 years ago. Like, you know, I was pretty happy to be where I was at.
And they came from the WBT before that.
So yeah, going into day 3, sitting in 7th place, it was still pretty tight too. So I was really hoping to have a good day 3, but I was nervous about my little honey hole, being that it was kind of dying off day by day. And I had Dana Rabin with me that day. So, you know, and she's a really good co-angler as well.
As soon as you said her name, I just remembered what happened.
Yeah, so there's a little story there, but we went to that spot first thing. I didn't mess with top water that day, and it was pretty dead. And so I was really bummed because that was kind of my little, you know, bag of tricks there at that spot.
Faithful for your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get at least some keepers in the boat first thing, and then that kind of takes the pressure off. It just changes the whole trajectory of the rest of the day.
Oh, definitely.
I want to say I got one off that spot, but it was like just not producing. And so we tried some other spots. I went back in this one creek that I fished during practice. I didn't catch anything, but there had been some rain, and I was kind of hoping maybe there'd be some incoming water back in there that, cause it was raining. I mean, we got drenched on day 3, like absolutely soaked to the bone. Like neither one of our rain gear did what it was supposed to do. We were absolutely soaked. And
really,
I wish I didn't bring my 100-mile-an-hour suit, but as cold as I was, I wouldn't have imagined being able to wear that, being, you know, that it was hot. But I was freezing on day 3 and wished I had that 100-mile-an-hour suit.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I was
it must have been really windy and everything too.
It wasn't super windy. It was, I mean, the temps were cooler, and I think just being soaked to the bone, it was just chilly.
Yeah.
And so I was really dreading that run back to Lincoln Landing at the end of the day. But luckily the rain let up by then, and it wasn't so bad. But anyway, yeah, so Dana, she did pretty good. But the worst thing that happened was, so we went in that area that I called the pipe, and she landed a huge largemouth, and it was pouring down rain, probably torrential downpour at that point. And there's a road right there that goes over that pipe, and so there's traffic. And I had my hood on, my raincoat, and I could not hear anything. And she's kind of soft-spoken anyways.
Yeah.
But she was hollering for the net, and I didn't hear her. And she tried to boat flip it, and it shook off the hook. And so she potentially, I think if she could have got that fish in, she maybe could have won on the co-angler side, which that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Poor Dana.
So luckily she got redemption and got another one. We kind of trolled that area a couple times before we left. And this time I didn't put my hood on because I'm like, that ain't happening again. I don't care. I'm already soaked to the bone. This hood ain't helping me anyway. So
right.
I left it off so I could hear. And by some miracle, she hooked another huge one, and we got it. That was a crazy experience.
Wow.
I mean, it was jumping, and I think
did she yell louder that time?
I heard her. I don't know if it was louder, but I heard her that time. And I almost missed netting it the first time it jumped again, and then we got it. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. So she
might have like jumped in the water or threw you in the water.
Maybe, but my heart was racing. That was a really cool experience.
That's awesome. Dana, she's amazing. I mean, she's great as a co-angler. She could be, boater anytime that she wants to, but she's just a great girl. Fun to be around.
Yeah, and she was sweet. She wasn't mad at me at all. Mm-hmm. She knew absolutely I could not hear her. And so it was just the situation of, that heavy rain and the traffic and my hood. And so unfortunately that happened, but I'm sure it's haunted her somewhat, but she did great. I mean, she caught that big one, and she had another one. She didn't get her limit that day. I think I only ended up with 2 that day. And so that's what got me the 12th place finish. But overall, I was still really happy. I'm excited for next year. They haven't announced the schedule yet, so I'm kind of antsy about that. Ready to start kind of planning things and get our reservations made and all of that. So, yeah. Hopefully we get that soon. I don't know.
Oh, I think it'll be out pretty soon. I don't know. I don't remember when it came out last year, but I think it'll come out soon.
Didn't it come out like at the Classic last year or right before?
I think it was a little bit after the Classic.
Of course, Truman Lake, that was later. It wasn't until sometime in October. Right.
We are in October.
Well, I know we are now, but
this I'm like, wait a minute, is it
this year's Classic was in September, whereas I think Truman Lake was in October.
It was in October. That's true. But no, I think that some of the cities that are being considered, I think, are doing their budgeting meetings and stuff like that. Like at the end of September for their fiscal year for next year. I think I don't remember where, I don't know if I read that or if I heard that. But yeah, I'm not really sure, but I think it'll be out pretty soon because everybody's got to, make reservations and, stuff like that.
Yep.
But and I definitely want you to, to mention your podcast because, I mean, the last 2 years, I mean, you You killed it with the podcast. I mean, this year it wasn't even really close, which is good.
Yeah. It was a lot of pressure, especially because the voting was happening during the whole Logan Martin tournament and practice fishing and the tournament itself. And so it was nice not to have to be so
right.
distracted by, trying to get enough votes to get the distinguishing honor again this year. But you were instrumental in helping me get it that first year. And I look back and we had to get like over 3,000 votes that first year. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. And it was, I mean, right up to midnight. And like, I remember being like, I was being like, real, like, we're going to do it, Angie. Don't worry. We're going to do it. And I remember like, okay, I'm going to message the music family, because onto the ISSAs. And, I think that's probably the group that I drew from that really like pulled through for me, because a bunch of them last minute pulled through with a bunch of votes, but it was just crazy that year.
I was like, we're never doing this again.
But we did.
And then it comes around again the next year. And yeah, it was a little more relaxed. I think we won it with like 800 votes or something like that. The next closest one, which is Angie Thompson, which I really hated competing against her because I've had her on my podcast before. She has a great show called the Fishing Business Podcast. I highly recommend people listening to that, especially if you're trying to be a tournament angler, because she has a lot of great guests on and advice for getting sponsors and things, all the things that we all need help with. So I was kind of like texting with her in the beginning. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. But she's kind of not as big into like promoting herself as I have tried to be. And so that kind of helped a little bit, I guess, but definitely.
Well, and we were prepared for it.
Yeah.
Because right. I was watching it. I had done, like the Facebook, the Twitter post, the TikTok video. And then when you were down there. So I was watching the votes to see if there was going to be like a big push, so we were kind of prepared for it too, in case, they were going to do anything crazy there at the end. We weren't going to let you lose. No way.
Well, yeah. So I got to go to Colorado. It was Estes Park, Colorado, for the Outdoor Media Summit. We didn't have one in 2020 to celebrate that 2019 win because of COVID. So it all just kind of got lumped into this one conference. And the conference was really cool. Met a lot of different people. It wasn't really a typical outdoor, what I've been used to going to, where it's mostly focused on fishing and hunting. There was pretty much no hunting at all and very, very, very little fishing. And so it was a lot of camping, hiking, RVing, just kind of any kind of outdoor adventure. And so it was a totally different group of people. It was cool to get connected with them. And I think it's good that like my podcast ended up winning, because I think it probably helped introduce more of a fishing element to it, which I think hopefully will grow. They sent me an email today, I think it was, or maybe yesterday, asking for suggestions on how to improve it for next year. And that's going to be one of my big suggestions, is to incorporate more fishing. But the coolest part of the conference was on day 2, we did this big scavenger hunt in Estes Park. And they had different stations set up with different vendors and things, and we had to do different activities at each one as we found them on the map, and we had to walk to wherever we were going. And one of them was a fly fishing thing. So there was some fishing involved. It was in a little stream there. And I think it was a technique called takara, I believe, which is a Japanese fly casting, where you have no reel. You've got like a 13 foot long rod and your line, and it was braided line with a long leader and then a little fly, which the fly didn't have a hook, just so nobody accidentally hooked somebody if they didn't know what they were doing. But I'm not big into fly fishing. I've done it very, very little, but they had a cornhole, like a small cornhole board set up, and the contest was you got 10 casts, and to see how many times you could either hit the board or land it in the hole. If you landed in the hole, you got 50 points. If you hit the board, you got 10 points. And we kind of got to that station by the end of the day, and I was kind of nervous about doing it because I'm the angler of the group, but I'm not a fly angler, you know. Anyway, anyway, I ended up hitting the board 7 out of the 10 times, and he said that tied for the best of the whole day.
Nice.
So
you didn't disappoint.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Good. So that was kind of fun, but I got in over 20,000 steps that day of the scavenger hunt. So
wow.
Lots of exercise. Of course, the air is a lot more thin up there, and we did do one climb, not like climbing, but a hike up a steep incline to get to this one station. And yeah, you could definitely tell that air is a lot thinner. You're breathing a lot more to get the oxygen.
You should have been like, I don't hike.
Yeah, exactly.
I fish.
Yeah, is there an alternative here or whatever? But no, that was a lot of fun. The scary part though, so at the end of that day, we had a big dinner at this restaurant downtown Estes Park, and at the end of the scavenger hunt, we walked to this restaurant. So, it was like a pizza buffet thing, and it was cool. And I was chatting with some people, and then it was getting kind of late, and I'm like, I think I'm just going to walk back. I don't remember it being that far back to the hotel. And as you mentioned, there's elk just hanging out in town, and it's the rut, and the bulls can be a little aggressive. Yeah. So you got to kind of be careful, And so it's pitch dark out at this point, and I'm walking back to the hotel. Well, it ends up being way more further than I remember or thought it was, because we had jumped around so much during the scavenger hunt. And I'm like, I get to this stretch that's back to the hotel, and it's not a lot of lighting. It's pretty pitch dark. And I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm like, I don't know if I should be walking back when there's elk walking around, and I
have a cousin in Utah that got treed by an elk.
Oh, yeah.
And he scaled that tree.
No,
it's really dangerous.
I probably wouldn't be scaling any trees either.
Yeah. So. They will straight up kill you.
Yeah. So I turned around and I walked back. There was this area that had a shopping center with a Starbucks and stuff. And, I'm like, I'll see if I can get an Uber back to the hotel. Well, there's not really any Ubers or lifts in Estes Park. So I'm like, okay, here's my choices. Just chance it, try to get back to the hotel, or book it back to where the restaurant is. And I was pretty sure they probably had shuttles taking people back. It went till 9 o'clock, and I was just tired and wanted to go back early. And so I decided to book it back to the restaurant. And on my way back, I ran into this couple I recognized from the thing, and they were walking back to the hotel. And so I was like, all right, I'll walk back with you guys. So at least we're in a group and it feels a little more safe.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a good call.
Yeah. So that was a crazy experience.
This is what happens when you turn a fisherman loose in the woods hiking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, the picture that I saw, I kept looking at it and I'm like, are they all really sitting around on rocks while these elk are just chilling by the campfire with them? And so I kept looking, thinking that it was fake, because I don't know, like it just seemed like it would be a postcard that was photoshopped because it was just a gorgeous photo, first of all. But secondly, I mean, I love like deer and elk, to watch and stuff like that. But I'm not trying to pet, one of them big elk,
Yeah.
and they were
No.
that close to people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then one of the funny things that happened on the trip, I made a post about this as well, but while we were finishing up the scavenger hunt and walking to that restaurant, I saw a Lance truck camper rig go by that I recognized from Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Cummins camper. And so I messaged, because I follow them on Instagram, and messaged them, and I'm like, hey, I just saw you drive by. I didn't know you were in Estes Park. That's so cool. And then
They're probably like, creeper.
no, and I said, I'm here for the Outdoor Media Summit. And they were like, whoa, we were just at this restaurant and got kicked out because this group of outdoors people were having there, and that was the restaurant we were having our big pizza buffet at. So it was kind of ironic, but they ended up coming out to the hotel, the Ridgeline Hotel, where our conference was the next day, and I got to meet them. And so that was really cool. They're probably going to be in Nashville sometime this fall, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up again. But when we were talking, they went to that area in my picture with all the elk that day. And the husband, I think his name's Eric, said that his wife got way too close to one of them. Like nothing happened, thankfully, but
Right.
yeah, people just get right up next to them and get photos, and they're just hanging out. Just it's so crazy to see.
Wow. But what's cool about that story that you just said, like with them, with like the Lance camper and stuff, and you sent them a message and they come out and everything, is like, it just goes to show like the community. I always say like the fishing family, but now like the hiking and, so I guess just outdoors people in general, like, I swear it has to be one of the best social media communities that there is,
I think so. And Eric, if I got his name right, I'm pretty sure his name's Eric. He was messaging me the next day about, well, we talked a little bit about fishing when we met up. He loves to fish too.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you travel in a truck camper, you're kind of limited on how much gear and things you can bring with you. And they travel a lot out west and stuff, and where that fly fishing technique we use called Takara it's really good for like shallow streams and stuff. And so the guy that taught us that, he said that he rides a motorcycle a lot, and his Takara rod folds up and he carries it on his motorcycle. So it unfolds to be a 13-foot rod, but it's portable enough. And so I was telling him, the truck camper guy, about that. I'm like, that would be perfect for you to carry in your truck camper because it won't take up any space at all. And a lot of these areas that you travel through, that would be a great technique to use, So it's kind of cool. All things just kind of
that is cool
come together.
It just seems like everybody's just so willing to like reach out and help and connect, each other to each other. And like, it's just a great community. We're really lucky to be a part of it,
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Oh, next year's Outdoor Media Summit is North Lake Tahoe. So hopefully we'll win again.
I know that from pictures that I've seen, and I have family that goes there every year, no place more beautiful. So
it's supposed to be some good fishing up that way too. So
yeah, you definitely got to win.
That would be awesome.
Next year. You're like, yeah, I do.
Well, there's some pretty big podcasts that are involved in this Outdoor Media Summit. So we'll see what happens next year. But one of them is the Adventure Sports podcast, and they get like millions of downloads a year. which is a little bit more than what I get. I mean, I get tens of thousands, but not millions. So that could be some stiff competition if they end up getting in it.
Yeah, but they don't know what they're up against either. Yeah, we'll just have to start the voting a lot earlier next year. And yeah, we'll get a head start on that, because that could be dangerous, but
yeah,
they don't know what they're messing with. If you guys are watching.
Yeah, right. We shall see.
Oh, well, good deal. Well, for everybody that's still signed on, thank you for watching, and we will see everybody next Monday. So everybody have a good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.